What's up, everybody? Today is our last show, and my last show at DraftKings, because I got laid off. So here's what we have coming up on today's show. Sweet 16, we will talk about Texas Tech shining, and Prime chimes in on where Shedeur could end up. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at Senior hysterically laughing. And Adam Silver speaking on NBA futures. All that and more coming up on a wild last ride of Gojo and Golic. Do not go anywhere.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Gojo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., and Jesse Cofield with you guys for one more ride. Fun show coming up. You don't need to worry about downloading, subscribing, and that other stuff here. Yeah. You can still subscribe to the Gojo and Golic YouTube channel. Some stuff might pop up there eventually. We do have a fun show for you still. You can check this one out today with all of us and the return of super producer Brandon Newman in the final hour of the show. He makes his triumphant return to help us turn the lights off, since he was one of the guys that helped us turn them on here with the Gojo and Golic narrative cinematic universe. So excited to have Brandon back in the fold. Guy's been on paternity leave since before the Super Bowl, and so I can only imagine, Dad, what his life's been now with now 3 kids in the Newman household keeping him busy.
Yeah, 3 young kids as well. Jesse would know about that as well. I mean, that's a tough road. Jesse, you got me sipping coffee right when you made that comment about you being laid off. You got me.
I know.
Yeah,
I can
as
see
Mike
that.
said, yeah, still subscribe to the YouTube channel, because that we're going to show up again somewhere pretty soon. So, yeah, it'd be nice to talk to Brandon again. Haven't seen him in a while, and might as well, very fitting to talk to him on the last day of this show.
Yeah, we might as well. So again, we know we've mentioned it a bunch this week, but today will be our last day doing this show here at the DraftKings Network. We're cutting the lights off this weekend. Thank you to everyone that has listened and popped in along the way. We're going to give you a pretty normal show today. We got plenty of sports to talk about. Yeah. Sweet 16 getting popped off last night. Big finishes in the NBA. Major League Baseball's opening day. So we've got plenty to sink our teeth into. But, it is one of those moments that we came over here 3 years ago all collectively to try and make this happen. We wish it had gone on and lasted a lot longer, but really appreciative of everyone that did make that happen. We'll visit more with some of those characters as we go along through the show. But again, everyone that did pop in and give us some time either watching, listening, sharing whatever you did on social, seeing the million clips that got blasted out here, we greatly appreciate it. And we hope that, wherever everyone in this crew ends up next, because there are unfortunately a lot of other good people like Jesse that won't be working here anymore, like us that won't be working here anymore. And so if you need help, we got plenty of great names to recommend to you, and we have no doubt they'll all be doing something great very, very soon. So with that in mind, we won't eulogize too much here off the top of the show, because Dad, good God Almighty, last night had some juice to it at the end. Can I say, first off, and I understand it's this way every year, why in the hell are these college basketball games on so damn late when we have so few of them? I'm on the West Coast, and I should not be complaining about this, but even that felt barbaric. The fact that we're getting 10 o'clock Eastern tip-offs is insane and shouldn't happen, because then people end up getting sleepy and missing the great stuff like we saw at the end of Texas Tech and Arkansas last night.
Yeah, that ended up being the closest and best game going to overtime. We'll obviously get to that game. But you're right, and we're on the West Coast and still have trouble making it up. That shows you, my age anyway. You should be able to stay awake. But on the East Coast, where we were for so many years at ESPN trying to watch those games, it is brutal. But, before we get to the games, obviously the big thing with everybody is their sheets of integrity. I'm doing really well. I only had 3 games last night because I had St. John going to the Elite Eight. So I was out on Texas Tech and Arkansas, which, again, turned out to be the best game. But I went 3-0 on my 3 games. So I had Florida, I had Alabama, I had Duke. And I would imagine, Mike, this year, because it is so chalky, that there are a lot of people at the top of tournaments, because as we know, people will, unless they're really, into their team and they have their team magically running through as a Cinderella story, the only Cinderella story in double-digit seed Arkansas is now out, that people get pretty chalky. So I would imagine at the top of a lot of competitions around the country, it is pretty close at the top and going to remain that way.
Well, especially because usually the thing that nukes your bracket is when people lose their champion. And so in past years, when we've seen 15 seeds, 16 seeds win, you're usually taking out a bunch of people's champion and thus nuking their chances of actually having an opportunity to win the bracket. So you've kept more people in it for longer. Dad, for me, this was the equivalent of my golf game where I overcorrected for my slice and then ended up hitting it straight. Because I had a bunch of upsets picked in this bracket. I went the usual route that we go in the tournament. And of course, this year we hit it straight down the center. It just happens to be pointed far right on the fairway because usually I got to bend that thing back in. So I do wonder for how many people that will be the case where, hey, it's March Madness. You try and pick a bunch of upsets because you know it usually happens. And now we sit here after last night. And again, Dad, as the Sweet 16 begins, we had more chalk with number 2 Alabama beating number 6 BYU, number 1 Florida beating number 4 Maryland, number 1 Duke beating number 4 Arizona, and as you mentioned, 3 seed Texas Tech had to storm all the way back to do it in exciting fashion over Cal's 10 seed that was up double digits damn near that entire game, but it is another round where the higher seeds will out and they keep rolling through the tournament.
Yeah, it really is, and I think for most people as they get chalky toward the second weekend, it's going to be interesting. The Elite Eight now, well, Florida's in and Duke is in the Elite Eight, and to see if they were to go down to in the Final Four, because most people have either Duke or Florida. I think Florida is probably the highest percentage pick of champion, and I think Duke is second. So that's what it's going to come down to. Is can those two teams even make it to the title game? And then I think the title game, if it is Duke and Florida, is going to decide a whole lot of these contests. But I do think that while it has been chalk, getting Duke and Florida to the title game is going to be huge for people because those were the two biggest picks.
Can I say, watching Duke, you got the full Cooper Flagg experience. Like, if you're one of the many teams at the bottom of the NBA totem pole, sitting and waiting and wondering if you're going to get that top overall pick in the draft lottery, you see why people are racing to the bottom. 30 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 steal, and 3 blocks in a game that Duke wins 100-93. And Dad just doing everything that he can off the dribble with the kind of height, length, and athleticism that he has. It was pretty special to watch on bigger and bigger stages that we're getting at the end of the sport. Again, you couple that with the fact that he's just barely 19 years old. He's going to be one of the youngest prospects, especially since we started not letting guys go straight out of high school to be drafted number 1 overall in the NBA draft. So the full complement of skills on display last night in a big way for Duke.
And by age, he would have been coming directly out of high school because, again, for those who don't know, he reclassified. Yeah. He should be a senior in high school right now. Could you imagine him playing against high school kids with what he's doing to college kids and the surefire absolute lock number 1 pick in the NBA draft? He should be in high school right now. That blows my mind. I mean, it takes you back to the days where you could get drafted right out of high school. This kid would have got drafted right out of high school if this was, in fact, his senior year in high school. He scores 18.5, including a long 3 at the buzzer to end the half, then puts up another 12 in the second half. You mentioned his stat line. And, and listen, this was a 7-point game. Caleb Love was monster for Arizona as he's been. 35 points, I think, 1 shy of his career high. He was just, banging down threes and shots and keeping Arizona in this thing. At one point, I think he had 15 straight points for Arizona. So he was keeping him in this game. But Cooper Flagg he has, from game one, reclassified high school senior, he has lived up to the hype.
It truly has. And it's interesting, we can have the retrospective at some point about how it didn't feel like that gave us the juice during the regular season. And I expected having a player of that caliber with an NBA future that bright at a place like Duke that is as storied and tradition rich. And we've seen go and turn stars into a full-blown mania the way they did with Zion. We might give way to that late in the way that March Madness is want to make stars. And certainly as we look forward towards the NBA draft, that'll become even more pronounced. But then on the other side, Dad, we had the first overtime game of March Madness with Arkansas and Texas Tech, and it looked pretty unlikely. Texas Tech spent the majority of that game down double digits. They were down 13 points with less than 5 minutes left in that game. And really, Darian Williams coming through in the clutch at the right times here, hits the shot to tie it tie it at the end of regulation, sending it to overtime, and then hits the go-ahead shot with just 7.3 seconds left in overtime to help win the game. And I really thought, Dad, this was going to be the beginning of a magical run for Cal and that bunch, and they let it slip away here. Credit to Texas Tech for grinding that thing out at the end here. Just a phenomenal finish to a game that I was ready to put to bed with about 5 minutes left.
So Arkansas was up 16 at halftime. And entering that game, John Calipari was 35-0 in his NCAA tournament career when leading by 6 or more at halftime. So he now has a loss because they, again, as Mike talked about the lead, they were up 16 at halftime. You said it, Darian Williams, he hit that shot with a little over 9 seconds left in regulation. He hit the three, and then kind of a spinning layup he hit with 7 seconds left in overtime. They closed the game on a 16-3 run to tie, because you thought, okay, we have one somewhat Cinderella story in 10 Arkansas going to move on to play Florida the way they were dominating that game. But credit Texas Tech, and especially Darian Williams for coming back in that one. Now they have the unenviable task of facing Florida, which I think will be the end of the road for Texas Tech the way Florida is playing. But the most exciting game of the night for sure.
According to ESPN research, Arkansas had led in the lead up to the end of this game for 38 minutes and 53 seconds, whereas Texas Tech had led for 3 minutes and 20 seconds during that same time period. So an unlikely way to climb back out on that one. So again, Duke, Texas Tech, Florida, and Alabama all advance. Alabama, by the way, the offensive tour de force that they have put on in this tournament. Jared Burson had a great thread on Alabama's dominance online. Alabama had 25 three-pointers made in this victory. That's not only an NCAA tournament single game record, but only one team has ever made more threes in a win over a Division I opponent. That was Davidson in 2017 against Charleston Southern. They're the first team in D1 history to score 100 points in 5 wins over AP-ranked opponents in a single season. They've topped 100 wins in 7 NCAA tournament teams, the most since 1991 Arkansas. And Alabama's 113 points are the second most the team has ever scored in regulation in a game second week or later. That's UNLV scored 131 in the Elite Eight in 1990. So a just unprecedented tear for the Crimson Tide that came into the tournament. Nate Oates' squad, the best offensive team in college basketball, and they have shown up and continue to put that mark on the sport.
They scored 51 points in the first half and outdid that with 62 points in the second half. Absolutely amazing. Mark Sears had 34 points. Mark Sears took 18 shots. 16 of them were threes, and he made 10. He was 10 of 16 from three-point land. They were 25 of 51. And this was such a opposites game. They were banging threes and BYU was scoring in the paint. That's how this game was going. And then Alabama just absolutely pulled away from them. It was I think a 9-point lead at halftime. And then they just started smoking them in the second half. The one bright spot for BYU, the Alright Tater Tots grandkid, Richie Saunders, had led the way with 25 points. So that story ends, unfortunately, but his hopefully considerable wealth doesn't.
Yeah, heroes get remembered, but Tater Tot heirs never die. So he gets to continue as his Spud kingdom will only grow after the reach it received during the NCAA tournament. So a fun night in March Madness overall. Obviously, that'll keep going tonight. The women's side gets going this weekend. Our Notre Dame Fighting Irish got a big one coming up against TCU, so we're fired up for that one. But, Dad, the NBA last night, Lakers, it's starting to get a little scary for the Los Angeles Lakers right now, who, after last night's loss to the Chicago Bulls in incredibly dramatic fashion, have now lost 8 of their last 12 games and sit tied at the 4 spot with the Memphis Grizzlies in the Western Conference standing, just 2.5 games clear of the Clippers and Golden State Warriors, who have been seesawing for the 6 and 7 seed. So, Dad, we talked about it. The Lakers trying to keep their head above water and really struggling here in this last stretch of games.
Lakers were up 5 with 12 seconds to go. Chicago hits a 3, steal the inbound pass, and hits a 3. So with 12 seconds to go, they're up 5. With 6 seconds to go, the Lakers are down 1. and Austin Reeves gets a layup with about 3 seconds to go to put them up 1. They're up 1 with 3 seconds to go, and Josh Giddey dribbles it up and hits a clear half quarter. I mean, just smoked it at the buzzer for the 2-point win, 119-117. What a wild finish. And even LeBron said that turnover after the first 3 Chicago had to put them within 2, LeBron said that was one of his worst turnovers ever, as Chicago gets to steal and bangs down another 3. So, yeah, I mean, talk about a game is never over till it's over. That was a clear definition of it.
Yeah, an incredible shot. According to Basketball Reference, the Los Angeles Lakers become just the 5th team in NBA history to win and then lose on buzzer beaters in consecutive days. Because remember, LeBron had the tip in against the Pacers the day after he went nuclear on Pat McAfee's show and incited beef with Stephen A. Smith and everything that's ensued with that since. And while that soap opera has been going on one side, we've had all this actual exciting basketball going on the other side with the Lakers, as I mentioned, losing 8 of their last 12. But shout out to the Bulls, Dad. Our friend Adam Amin over there calling games for them in Chicago. Winners of 9 of their last 11, sitting in the 9 seed right now and firmly, it looks like, inside the play-in tournament in the Eastern Conference, where Toronto is just so far behind Miami. That's probably not going to be a real threat. So the Bulls will a little something to be excited about here at the end of the season as this team gets hot at the right time heading into the play and maybe working their way into the status of the team no one wants to play. But yeah, Dad, just it kind of shows you, I mean, these last couple of games, how thin the margin seems to be for the Lakers right now as LeBron James works himself back from that groin injury. And we've talked about the viability of them, the Golden State Warriors, as threats in the Western Conference, along with a team like the Clippers, all of whom are relying on aging veteran stars and just praying to God they're healthy at the right time. That seems to be the biggest determinant of what's going to happen outside of Oklahoma City steamrolling through the Western Conference playoffs the way we expect, is can any of these teams led by veteran stars be healthy enough, long enough, at the right time to actually make a deep run? And for the Lakers, it seems even if that's the case, it's still going to be about a coin flip every night right now.
Yeah. 9 games left, and there's going to be a shift. There can be a shift from probably not the 2 spot, but between Denver, the Lakers, and the Grizzlies, and then for 3, 4, and 5, and then the Lakers, Memphis, and the Clippers for 4, 5, 6. Throw Golden State, and Golden State is run the first play-in at 7, and the Clippers are the last playoff team at 6. They have identical records. So they're playing, one playing for the playoffs, the other playing for the play-in. So it should be an exciting end to the regular season before we hopefully get an exciting playoff run.
Take say, let this distract you from all of the bad teams trying to go and get Cooper Flagg. Plenty of exciting basketball down the stretch, but we threw out first pitches yesterday. Opening day came and went. We'll talk about the Dodgers still on pace for the perfect season next on Gojo and Golic.
my focus is on the NBA Finals. I will say that. In terms of Shams, that will be addressed once the season is over. So I'll just say that. I'll just say that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mysterious.
Okay. You know what? That's a great old-time radio tease right there. Well done on that. And also, feel free when you want to address it. We're right here for you. This is the place you have to address it.
Yeah, we know you've got a lot of outlets, JJ.
Yeah.
You know you got your own podcast and stuff like that. But we really feel like when you want to break some news, we can be the platform to help you do that. All right.
All right. So hold on. I don't mean any job. I mean Shams. After the season.
Ooh, just Shams in particular. Okay.
We'll wait on that one.
Okay.
We'll wait on that one.
All right.
Yep.
Did he ever do anything to Shams? Was there ever anything said about Shams? I don't even remember now.
I don't think so. That was a tease. That was a Stu Gatz tease. That was a tease that just had no payoff.
The tease to nowhere, a classic Stugat School of Broadcasting move for the initiated here. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Jesse Cofield, Gojo and Golic, JJ Redick, former guest turned Lakers coach, who going through it a little bit right now. JJ's had some moments and stretches where this team looks like a legitimate playoff contender, dialed in coming off of the trade deadline, and now kind of searching for answers with 8 of their last 12 down the hatch in the loss column. So we'll see if our former teammate and colleague JJ Redick can right the ship in Los Angeles. We got to clean up our own house, though, because we lived in Connecticut for long enough to where that is still considered home in my mind. I grew up there. We spent 25 years, a quarter century living in central Connecticut. And towards the end of that time, a lot of us here, especially now as we turn the calendar to Major League Baseball season, we are sitting and celebrating these ballparks, the food innovation, everything that's going on. And we'll get to some of the big results. Yesterday, Dad has gone from his Cleveland Cavaliers to now his Cleveland Guardians in the spring and beating his chest with the pride of Cleveland. But I do have to address something for my pride in Connecticut. The Hartford Yard Goats, the best AA ballpark in America, Dunkin' Donuts Park, one of the best minor league teams in America, the AA affiliate of the Colorado Rockies, were a bastion in the summertime for folks in central Connecticut. We don't have pro sports around there. This is what we have. We have the Goats and we have the Hartford Wolf Pack because the Whalers left us too before I got there. And the Yard Goats, Duncan Park, you get a lot of great food items there. The Nectar of the Goats is a beer brewed right in the state that they serve there. You can go and have yourself a rally gallon if you really want to tie on like a Saturday afternoon. The Hartford Yard Goats, in keeping with the recent tradition we've seen in Major League Baseball, unveiled a new specialty food item for this season. The Yard Goats, and I got tagged in this so much yesterday, so this is why I feel like I have to help answer for this. The Float Your Goat, a quarter-pound all-beef hot dog with chopped peppers, onions, bacon, and brown mustard submerged in a glass of 100% whole goat milk. Guys, please say JK. Please say April. Like, this better be a long wind-up to the April Fool's punch, and even then, I'm going to have questions on the stain that this has left on an indelible legacy of the Hartford Yard Goats, a very proud franchise and one that I love dearly and still have a lot of friends at. Dad, I'm pretty freaky when it comes to what I'll do in the kitchen. I cannot. I mean, I would take a bite, but I would not feel good about it.
No, I wouldn't take a bite. I mean, this is one of the grossest concoctions I've ever seen, because it all sounds great. Quarter pound all beef hot dog, chopped peppered onions, bacon, brown mustard. Stop. Full stop. That's a dog right there. That's a dressed up dog that I'm all in. But you stick that in a 100% whole goat milk glass and put it in front of me, I'm not touching it. I shouldn't say that. I'll probably bite the top half of it that's not submerged in the milk just to get the taste of it. But I'm with you. I hope they're kidding. Now, the picture is at the ballpark with the ballpark behind it. I don't know. Did they go to April Fool's early in this? But for Jesse, one of the most finicky eaters of obviously the three of us, way finicky eaters, I would be with her on this. I don't imagine you would touch this thing either, Jesse, would you?
Okay, I just want to say, I think calling me a finicky eater because I don't want to eat like fast food and chemical-laden Oreos is a little bit out of pocket, Senior. What I'll say... Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Go off, King.
Let me quickly ask you this. You keep talking about chemicals and foods and this and that. Who's been the most sick of the three of us? Who's missed time being sick the most of the three of us?
Yeah, because I don't want to be here, so my body's
Mike
rebelling.
and I will eat dirt. Mike and I will eat dirt, and we don't get sick. You eat clean, and you're sick. You don't have enough germs in your system.
I just got the results of my function health, #function health, results, and my biological age is 18, okay? So my blood work tells a different
except you're
story.
homesick.
Yeah. That's because I got
God.
little kids. That's because I got toddlers coming in with their foaming at the mouth with all their illnesses every day. It's like a petri dish in my house, Senior.
I will say it is unbelievable. My friends that have young kids, I did not realize how much of life with kids between the age of 0 and like 9 is just being sick because they come back from daycare and school and like you
I've
watch
never been
kids
this sick in
for
my
any
life.
amount of time.
Yeah.
Kids are so nasty the way they cough, like where they just cough on everything and never cover their mouths, and they're always sticky and covered with stuff. It's no wonder they're sick all the time. They're literally flypaper for illness.
Yeah, and Henry crawls around all over the floor with all the germs and stuff, sticks his hands right into his mouth. Vivian, touches everything. She's potty trained now. Like, I've seen the way she washes her hands. It's not good enough. We're all getting sick from this.
There's nothing wrong with that. Getting some good germs in you to repel some of that sickness, that's okay. Mike once ate a piece of donut stuck to a tire that he drove home from school and picked the donut off the tire and ate it. I mean, you know what? You gotta have some germs in your body.
Yeah, okay, you just said drove, so that would mean he's driving age. So once my kids are old enough, their immune systems aren't developed, Senior, okay? That's why they come home sick, they get me sick, they get my husband sick. We're all sick. Trust me, I've never been this sick in my life. Before I had kids, I never got sick, okay? Now I have these little kids, I'm sick all the time. It's disgusting, okay? It's gross.
Jesse has been pushed to the end of the rope by these young, life force sucking, beautiful babies in her life. That Kev, you know what? Still not put a dent in the fact that her blood is 18 years old. So never forget that. When Jesse rolls up and someone asks what her age is, and we wish her a happy birthday, it's going to be happy 18th birthday.
I'm going to send
Jesse,
this to the producers
so
they can punch it up. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. We'll get that. We'll get that all in there. So, Yargoats, man, yeah, just do us a favor. We're out here as representatives and ambassadors for the program proudly. We got to have the talk about this. I am convinced this is going to end up being a April Fool's moment, but we'll wait and see on that. No April Fools yesterday, Dad. Major League Baseball season got rolling. The Dodgers, I will say, the gold trim on the jerseys since in honor of them winning the World Series. Love that look. I think I saw someone float that the other day. Would be great if they got to do that all year, the World Series winning team. I think that's a phenomenal idea to distinguish them from their peers that are losers and not champions instead. But Blake Snell gets a win. Shohei Ohtani goes yard. It's everything that you would expect out of the Dodgers experience right now for a team who, I kid you not, have the payroll that is nearly 70% of the combined payroll of the entire AL Central. The Dodgers, $370 million. The AL Central combined, $544 million. And we know the amount of deferred payments mixed in that. So they get their money's worth right away with a nice one-run win over the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah, and obviously the deferred payments, especially the over $600 million deferred payment from Shohei, really helped them. But listen, this is just another big number that we've read for years in Major League Baseball of the has and have-nots, right? It's the who can spend money, the Yankees, the Red Sox at one point, the Mets, the Dodgers, who can spend money and who doesn't spend money. But Florida wins a couple of World Series when they have a payroll of $1. So everybody says, well, look, you can still do it. Build the correct way, and you can be a have-not and still win the World Series. When it's just showing that, man, if you have the money and you spend it, and a lot of these owners have the money, it's just who wants to spend it or who doesn't want to spend it. Some don't. But the Dodgers have chosen to spend it, and they're the favorites again this year. Not shocking.
No, well, I mean, speaking of spending all that money, too, tough start out the gate for Juan Soto. Gets all that money to go to the Mets and then strikes out in the end of the game for them to hold on and lose that game to the Houston Astros 3-1. That's, again, baseball is so tough to get worked up about because we have so many of these damn games. We're going to do this 161 more times. But first rattle out of the box when all eyes are on you. I understand pitching has the advantage early in the season. But, Dad, not what you want to see if you're Steve Cohen first rattle out of the box with your very, very expensive new player.
No, it is not. You're like, well, we have a lot of games left. We have 161 games left, so hopefully we won't see that a lot. Got to give a tip of the cap to Baltimore's outfielder Tyler O'Neill. Baltimore, which should be in the running for the AL East, they win their game over Toronto. Tyler O'Neill hit a 3-run home run. It extended his major league record by homering for a 6th straight opening day. I mean, how this dude is money on opening day. I wonder how his odds have dropped over the years of now they expect him to hit a home run. You probably could have made some good money on that bet 5 years ago, but now it's probably going to be close to even money that he's going to hit a dinger on opening day. That's a hell of a streak.
Yeah, he is to opening day what Castellanos is to pivotal moments in both real life sports and pop culture, stepping to the plate and hitting home runs at the most inopportune time. So everyone's got their gift and they all just stick with it here. Overall, Dad, it's exciting. It's kind of weird knowing Major League Baseball right now. The storyline and the headline going into the season was, the end of the deal with ESPN and all of the bad blood there between Rob Manfred and what's gone on at the end of that rights deal, as this league that Dad has made real effort in trying to improve its product with the pitch clock, with all these things they've added to the game to try and speed things up, make it more exciting. You've got some young stars that have infused a lot of life into this game, and you've got teams in the big markets like the Yankees and the Mets and the Dodgers that have gone out and been major players in the last few seasons. All of it, I appreciate Major League Baseball's effort. They're always going to be working at a disadvantage because, as I talked about with Jared Carrabis a long time ago, Major League Baseball is a game you have to work to be a fan of. You've got to put a lot of time in to feel like you know this game well enough to talk about it and well enough to root for the team coherently over the course of a long season. So capturing casual eyes, always going to be pretty tough. But opening day is one of those games where I sat around and watched 2 or 3 games yesterday because it's like the beginning of March Madness. There's something on all the time, and it can be a ton of fun to start to see in all the new faces and new places and what ends up going on. How they sustain that still remains to be the existential question for every league that's trying to get more casual eyeballs. But Major League Baseball has been doing a lot of things to help themselves out. And so I don't feel like we have to have the summer where we're usually sitting around trying to fix the sport.
No, I mean, they are trying. Again, the pitch clock has been the big thing over the last couple of years. And there are obviously national teams, Dodgers, Yankees, Mets, but it's more a regional sport. And you're right. It's a little more difficult for the casual fan to check into it. But the baseball fans are pretty rabid, especially in Cincinnati. Did you see in Cincinnati where they always had that early home game? They did lose to the Giants, but just the crowd that shows up. I mean, it's absolutely amazing that city on opening day. You got to give them that.
Oh, yeah, that stretch of street, I forget the name of the road, but in between Paul Brown Stadium where the Bengals play and then the Red Stadium is an absolute madhouse on opening day. And in general, a city with a bunch of really good fans. Cincinnati, one of 2 Queen cities, them and Charlotte. I think there might even be more than that, but either way, shows up and shows out for its sports team. So happy opening day to all who observed. I hope somewhere Tim Kirkshin had a phenomenal time since he's the person who loves baseball that I care about the most. His joy is the nation's joy. His joy is my joy when it comes to the start of Major League Baseball season. And Dad, now we sit back and wait on that front to see how this all plays out. And I prepare for a summer where I might have more free time on my hands and start going around to ballparks and trying to check off some of those weird specialty food items that we've seen.
That's the thing. I mean, I rarely go to a ball game and make it through 9 innings, but if there's some specialty food to eat, I'm going to do it. And hey, listen, White Sox fans, grab it while you got it. You're 1-0. I mean, hell, jump on the bandwagon early because it'll be empty late. So at least they started out the season right.
Jesus, took a side swipe at the White Sox for no reason on the way out of this segment here. That's how you want to end this. That's how you want to end our time at DraftKings. Taking shots, punching down at the poor White Sox.
I was positive. I said, latch onto that team early.
Yeah, enjoy sucking later on. I saw right through it. Coming up next, can we parse through Deion Sanders' words to tell us about the future of Shedeur? Next.
Quick note, Mike, on our last segment when you were yelling at me and disrespecting me the way you were. You know, people say that you love your kids all the same, and I always said, no, you don't. Let me just say right now, you're fifth. You're behind Sydney, Jake, my children,
me,
and my son-in-law and daughter-in-law, Ben and Jenny. So you are now fifth.
What about Emerson?
No, you're sixth because I'm fifth.
No, you're not, Emerson, because I don't even know if you have underwear on right now. So,
I do.
no,
clean ones.
not.
I washed them yesterday. I was bullied into washing them.
Wow. Our bestie, Emerson. Always trying to insert
Ranking
himself.
kids and wearing fresh drawers. That's what Gojo and Golic does, thankfully, there. Dad, what's the ranking looking like today?
Well, I haven't heard from the other kids yet, so I'll put you at number one for now, since I haven't heard from anybody else because it's still somewhat early. So you hold the top spot. You usually hold the top spot early in the day before I hear from the rest and before the day takes shape. But Jesse, you have two kids now. I mean, well, your kids are young, so you can still love them both the same. But you'll get to a point where you rank them. There's no doubt.
Okay, but I feel like, Senior, let me make this distinction because I think that this is true, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. What you're saying is that you're ranking them by like, right? Like you love all your kids the same, but some days you don't like them all the same.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I never don't love my kids. I will always love my kids. There's nothing like a love you have for your kid. Yeah. But yeah, it's liking them that day.
Yeah.
Without question. And on that flashback, Mike was fifth because he was being rude and disrespecting me.
Yeah.
His elder father taking advantage of me. So, but right now, yeah. But you're right. It is likability, not love.
And I there's a show right now that's really popular. I'm not sure what it's on. It's called Adolescence. And it's about, the premise is that like a 13-year-old is accused of murdering a classmate. And it's about his parents and everything. And I said to my husband, I was like, oh God, yeah, that would be a horrible situation to be in because like I'd have to, bury a body or like help my kid flee the country or like, and Michael was like, what? I was like, yeah, I would bury a body for my kid for sure. I'd do whatever it takes.
Boy, Jesse, you're amazing.
Yeah.
What did you say? You would shoot your husband in the face to save your kids.
I put a bullet in myself.
And now you would help your murdering child bury the body. Wow.
Yeah, I would. I would do it.
Parenting right there.
And I know I would.
You know what? And that's honestly saying even more for a 13-year-old kid, because every time I see like young teenage kids out in public, I'm always struck by how awkward and weird they are. And most of them are like loud and really rude. And it's just like, man, that's got to be, like I said, you're always going to love your kids. They got to be really hard to like at certain ages and really try your patience in a way that I cannot fathom as someone that is childless.
Oh, they do. Jesse, you'll see it when they get older, but there's no doubt there are ages where you love your kid, but you just don't like them. They're just jerks. And then they eventually come out of it. We're still waiting for you to come out of it, Mike.
Oh, and that's why you were fifth that day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was fifth that day. So speaking of fathers and sons, and no, we are not going to talk more about LeBron and Bronny James and Stephen A. Smith and the tangled web they weave. No, we're actually getting back to the father-son name, Dad, and the father-son duo that I feel like we've talked about comparatively less during draft season than we expected during this run. And that's Deion Sanders and his son Shedeur Sanders. Yesterday we heard Deion speak, oddly enough, on the Skip Bayless show, who has to be feeling incredibly left out at this point in time of all of the LeBron discourse. But you've got Deion Sanders joining Skip Bayless on his show, talking about his son Shedeur in the lead up, and listen to how he talks. Remember, this is a guy who we thought might be using his power to help Shedeur navigate, influence, maybe come back to school, all these things that were on the table about how people thought Deion might wield his celebrity and his cachet in that league to influence the outcome of what team his son Shedeur and Travis Hunter, who has basically cosplayed as a Sanders son during his time period at Colorado. This is what Deion had to say talking to Skip Bayless. Take a listen.
You know me, I'm going to get to the bottom of it. So I called that team because I tracked it down. I knew who it was. And I called the head coach, and we had a candid conversation because we were
really good. Good for you.
We were really cool. And he said, Prime, that never happened. He said, matter of fact, it was a great interview. We all walked out of there saying, dang, this kid got it. I said, yeah, but this guy on your staff lied and said it did. So you need to check him. And he did. Shedeur has told me, he's talked to me intently about all the visits he's had with all the teams, so I know where his heart is. I know where he wants to go. If it's New York, it's New York. If it's Tennessee, if it's Cleveland, if it's still the Raiders, if it's New Orleans, if it's any of those teams that are seeking a quarterback, I'm happy with it, man, because I know what he's going to do to the organization.
So, Dad, this, the much more level-headed approach of saying, yeah, whoever needs a quarterback, he's going to be happy to go in there and help and try and do his best to impact an organization, which, listen, for their relationship as father and son, it's great to see Deion just letting Shedeur go through this process and being a resource to him in that way. I know some people, Dad, and I'd be curious, your thought might read into this and say, I wonder if they're bracing for a potential slide down the first round, since remember, it was always, hey, I'm coming back to be the number one quarterback in the draft class. And now that has clearly become Cam Ward, this does seem to be some admittance that, hey, that plan is probably gone and that ship is probably sailed. And so we're going to get ready for whatever comes next.
Yeah, I think reality has set in a little bit. Remember Deion when Deion Sanders, and this is my era, was at the combine. He ran his 40 and basically left after and didn't do any interviews with anybody. I think that picked up, if somebody wanted to interview him, he'd say, when do you pick in the draft? And they'd be like 12th. They'd be like, no, I'll be gone by then. He would only do interviews with like the top 5 or top 10 teams. Deion was always so confident. Obviously, he's one of the greatest ever to play the cornerback position and a returner. And it seemed early in this process, they were feeling their oats a little bit more on where he would be. But now as it's settled in that Cam Ward is clearly number one, and let's be honest, Cam Ward is number one. You have two projected generational players in Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. If he is not taken in the first 3 picks, or I should say in the second or third pick, he is in for a slide. Because after that, New England doesn't need a quarterback. Jacksonville doesn't. Vegas doesn't. The Jets don't. Carolina doesn't. Now, New Orleans does at 9. And then Chicago's after that. They don't. So if he doesn't go second or third, unless somebody trades up for him, he is in for a bit of a slide. A guy who was trying to be the number one quarterback and then is clearly the second quarterback, but still thought to be a top 3 to top 5 or top 6 pick before Vegas traded for Geno Smith. all of a sudden there's a little bit of trepidation of saying he could fall. If it's not in the second or third pick, he is in for a little bit of a fall.
And think about what you mentioned there, what that could come or who that could come at the hand of. Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders' teammate, a guy that he has helped that program at Colorado and at Jackson State, both to tremendous success in the last few years. His future could be affected because his teammate is so tantalizing and so impressive that people are going to have a hard time passing on him if given the opportunity, even if they have a need at the most important position in football. That's how good he's been. And so for Shedeur, who was his teammate, for Deion, who was his coach, it's going to be interesting to see that dynamic play out on draft day if all of a sudden it does happen. Dad, let me ask you a question, because you mentioned after that where it could be. What do you feel like the bottom is? Like, what's the absolute stopper for where you think the lowest that Shedeur Sanders could go in the first round if he does fall past the New York Giants at 3?
Well, I got to believe that you'd have to think at 9, New Orleans, right? Because they need a quarterback. Derek Carr is just there for a year. After that, you have the Bears, San Francisco, the Cowboys, though, and there's the funky talk of the Dak Prescott trade to Cleveland, which I don't see happening. Dallas has a quarterback. Miami does. The Colts do. Atlanta does. Arizona does. Cincinnati does. I mean, it's a fall. Seattle does. Tampa Bay does. Denver does. I mean, you're talking 21 in Pittsburgh, right? If Aaron Rodgers hasn't signed, or if they still want to sign a young quarterback, they have Mason Rudolph. Now, does Pittsburgh move up? But I don't know why Pittsburgh would move up. None of the teams in front of them need a quarterback. So they're not going to take a quarterback. So, I mean, after the Giants at 3, or I should say New Orleans at 9, the Giants at 3, then New Orleans at 9, it's not till 21 that a team needs a quarterback. Now, that's barring any trades, which we know are going to happen. So, could he fall to 21 if Pittsburgh stays there? You know, again, high in the draft, I keep saying this, it all depends on the team's grade. And again, quarterbacks can be overvalued and you still may reach for one. But when there are 2, again, potential generational players in Abdul Carter, which seems to be mentioned with Cleveland more and more to go on the other side of Myles Garrett, and then the Giants have holes to fill and Travis Hunter can fill 2 of those, being one person, and they have Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston as quarterback, so they could wait a year if they don't think Shedeur is a franchise 10-year quarterback, then they won't take him, especially if a guy like Travis Hunter is available.
Well, the other part of this always is, quarterback's a position that can get overvalued. There's also only one on the field at a time, and unless you're going to stack them like the Falcons did, Dad, that does take a lot of teams out of the running automatically if they've got a quarterback that they trust, believe in, and are going to be riding with for the foreseeable future, either because they're signed to a long contract or a draft pick. And so you can hit a stretch where, hey, at some point, if you get to the best available mode and you've got good D linemen, you could still use an Abdul Carter who's young and talented. Travis Hunter is such an anomaly because depending on what team you are, you could put him wherever you wanted. He's like a stem cell. You can just put him in there and he's going to become a next great wide receiver or an all-pro cornerback. And so with those guys, it's different than a quarterback where you get one on the roster that can see the field in any meaningful way. I'm with you. I do think the buck stops with Pittsburgh. They've got to be, at this point, Dad, praying for that, by the way. Because Pittsburgh very quickly running out of answers. I saw Mina Kimes on NFL Live the other day. It mentioned and questioned the Pittsburgh Steelers' approach this offseason. Really now putting all, this is, I think it was The Dark Knight Rises, where in their they talked about, Alfred was talking to Batman about the jewel thief and said in their desperation, they turned to a man they didn't really understand, explaining all the criminals turning to the Joker. That's kind of the Steelers turning to Aaron Rodgers. In their desperation, they've turned to one of the most mercurial quarterbacks in the NFL currently and kind of hitched their wagon to that. I know that Cam Hayward came and said that they'd be comfortable with Mason Rudolph there familiarity-wise. I don't believe that, Dad, and that does not make careful planning at the quarterback, bringing back Mason Rudolph. That does not make a coherent plan out of that situation to have that as the backstop.
It's a team that had Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and Justin Fields had a winning record. Russell Wilson did until they lost their last 5 straight. To now no quarterback. Well, again, Mason Rudolph back, but really no quarterback. They're the last empty chair in the musical chairs of quarterback, right? They're the empty chair. And Aaron Rodgers keeps walking around the circle. He keeps walking past the chair, not making a decision. Who else is there to go in that? Carson Wentz? Do you trade? They're not going to trade for Kirk Cousins. So Aaron Rodgers keeps walking around the circle, keeps passing the chair, and Pittsburgh's sitting there going, what the hell? We have the empty chair, the empty hand of all the quarterbacks. Not to say that it was a dearth of great quarterbacks that were available, but there were some available, and they all sat down in chairs. And Pittsburgh is just looking around. They trade for DK Metcalf. They have two supposedly really good receivers. The line they had a young line last year. They got a year older. Hopefully they improve that. They have a running attack that's complemented with a passing game, but they have no quarterback. So they have to be in kind of a head-scratching position, not thinking that they would be in this position.
And Mina talked about it though. They put themselves in this position. It cost the Raiders a 3rd-round pick to go and get Geno Smith. That Sam Darnold contract was way more palatable than people would have expected midway through this last season. The Matt Stafford thing that I think they were loosely in on, but seemed like it was a hey, we tried sort of overture. All leads back to the fact that it didn't seem like they took this seriously enough when they needed to, and just figured that like last year they could make it up in the margins and make it work because they've got the infrastructure around there. They've got great coaching. It's a good organization, but it's one that's continued to just make head-scratching decision after head-scratching decision at quarterback. And if they get the opportunity, I'd imagine would jump and probably move up a little bit if they needed to go and get Shedeur Sanders. If all of a sudden now we start to get to the point where he becomes a value instead of a question mark in the top 5. All right, welcome back to Gojo and Golic. As we get set for hour number 2, a great question posed by ESPN's own Justin Tinsley. asking of movie villains, and not the villains you usually think of, who stands above the rest. Jenny from Forrest Gump against Rose from Titanic. Both absolutely well categorized as villains, but I'd be curious, at Gojo and Golic, who you think was worse in their behavior in the movie? Jenny, remember, didn't want Forrest Gump until all of a sudden she was terminally ill and then was down with it. Meanwhile, Rose spent her entire life with her husband and her kids, only to sit there on her deathbed pondering some dude she hooked up with on a boat 80 years ago. Let us know who stands above the rest. We'll be back for hour number 2 next. Hour number 2 here on Gojo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., and Jesse Cofield back for one last ride. Super producer Brandon Newman going to join us off paternity leave in the final half hour to bring us home. For those that remember, going back to the original Gojo podcast days, This, That, and the Third was a Brandon Newman creation, and Brandon Newman used to kick off that segment every time with a custom-fitted song just for the occasion, and I think he's got one planned for this time around. So he is back off of his daddying. He is back off of his stand-up comedy tour and giving us some of his time to end the show today. So very excited about that. But if we're talking about show traditions here, during football season for the last couple of years, we had always kicked off the second hour with a poem, an acrostic poem that we used to help preview the NFL weekend, usually courtesy of our producer Slates, who'd done a phenomenal job and had so much poetry in his heart. Jesse Cofield would put on the special hat in a way that we would go. Now, apparently we have got a special poem prepared for today. We have not seen this. We don't know who's going to be reading it because it's not going to be Jesse. So we've got this prepared. We're going to find out about it just when you guys do. So roll the tape.
All right, to anyone listening, and just so we're all clear, like, listen, I don't know what to tell you now. I usually get paid thousands of dollars to do things like this. I just want to let you know. I mean, best-selling author. I've done an audiobook. Jesus. Anyway, it's for the Golics, though. I get it. Thousands. I mean, and I'm being generous. Anyway, here we go. 3, 2, 1. the Nepo baby who found his way. Born to a ball player who gave him his name, he followed in his footsteps to play at Notre Dame. But despite his father's wisdom and the genes that made him so tall, he decided to line up on the other side of the ball. He excelled on the O-line and became a solid starter. But as soon as you reach the top, you fall even harder. He attended a party and ended up in the slammer, reached the national championship, only to get his ass kicked by Bama. But he picked himself up and he followed his dream, trying to find a home on an NFL team. It was Pittsburgh, then New Orleans, even time in Montreal. But after enough rejection, he got sick of it all. So he hung up his cleats and followed his father again, this time as a talking head at ESPN. At the worldwide leader, he honed his new craft, spitting takes of hot fire and making listeners laugh. It was from behind the mic he found a new way, meeting friends like Stugatz Wingo and Chennai. His broadcast of college games drew many compliments. He made headlines by dipping classic cookies in condiments. "Thick six," he'd exclaimed when a lineman would score, even finding time to exercise despite falling on the floor. But all good things must come to an end to make way for new experiences with both new and old friends. So he said goodbye to Bristol and the East Coast to move to Cali and become a podcast host. He got a new partner, a familiar one, on a new show with DraftKings, teaming father and son. Now what's next for young Golic? It's too soon to say, but that's how this proud Nepo baby found his own way. And that's why I get thousands. I mean, honestly, one take.
Oh,
Right,
my
seriously.
God.
Nailed it. Boom. See ya.
Oh.
Thousands. I mean, Mike, send me a check. Seriously. Listen to me. Next year, Radio Row, okay, when you go down one aisle and you do a little thing about beef jerky, all right? And then you come down the other aisle and you do that whole thing about, preventing diabetes, and you get paid hundreds of thousands. Give me some of that, all right, for doing this. You're welcome. Love you guys. Bye. Thousands.
Wow.
Oh, seriously.
Wow.
He's still talking. I just want to
Wow.
say, there's no way on God's green earth, Dad, to borrow the parlance of your time, that Stugatz did that in one take. Not a chance.
If he did, that would be one of the most amazing feats of his long broadcasting career. But yeah, leave it to Stugatz to give us the final poem. That was well done. Well done. And he read it in such a soft voice.
He did. Shout out to, I'm assuming, Slates, whoever was at the helm of that here. Listen right now. We need to turn that into a children's book. Now, it probably will have the success rate of this show, but still, well animated, well thought out and rhymed. Yeah. I mean, clearly there's a market for Nepo babies out there. We're everywhere now. We're taking over one city at a time. And so it was interesting to see me remain a baby through all those years, which I guess fits with the Nepo baby bit. But that was really well done. That could be a poorly selling children's book somewhere.
That really could. I mean, there were great pictures, great animated pictures. Great. It would be. I didn't know it was going to be that long, but that was children's book length, just long enough to hold their attention, but not too long to have them, fade away. A great picture, a great cover. I mean, this has all the earmarkings. Trademark this thing. Trademark it. Trademark Nepo baby. I don't know. It's probably already trademarked, but who knows?
Yeah, it's probably. That cover and that entire ordeal may be the most well-produced element of the show that we have had in the last 3 years, and it is on our last day. Salute to Slate. My mom is already brokering this, by the way, for our producer slates. We'll split the profits 50-50, maybe 60-40, probably 50-50, but maybe 60-40. We'll talk. If Stu Gatz gets his hand on this, he's probably going to get at least 10%, which is going to turn to 20 or 30% soon. So we need to act before Stu Gatz realizes this, because again, he has already grifted his way to one book that Dan Stanzik essentially wroed for him, that I in part helped write for him, and that a million other people did, and found his way to get money out of that situation. So we actually, you know what, now that I think about this, we need to weaponize Stu Gatz, because if anyone could get a Nepo Baby book to somehow be made and sold, it is John Stu Gatz Wiener. I have full faith in him. So, wow, that was incredible, and that was perfect summary of things to come, and the rest is still unwritten.
I am amazed at how good that was. Now, that the Stu Gatz reading it was good, but the animation and the poem itself and the pictures were phenomenal. A+ all the way. That was absolutely incredible. And again, on our last day, maybe if we had more things like this during the last 3 years, we'd still be on the air. Who knows?
Do other things earlier.
Right.
Not sure what that was, but we'll go with it. Anyway. All right, there we go. The Nepo Baby that made his way through here as we cycle through. I mean, that was more on brand for us here. Not the incredibly well-made poem and short story, but then the misfire of elements later on here, because our circuits are breaking as we sit down around here. It's Gojo and Golic on the DraftKings Network. Mike Golic Jr., the Nepo Baby who found his way alongside Mike Golic Sr. and Jesse Cofield. Dad, that sound that you were getting ready to hear was the one that we referenced last segment. Why don't we play that, as we talked a little bit about Shedeur Sanders, his draft stock going into this spring, and a team in the Pittsburgh Steelers that now is getting mentioned a little more. I think it was actually Mike Tannenbaum who in his latest mock draft had Shedeur Sanders falling after the New York Giants acquired Russell Wilson, and actually had the Pittsburgh Steelers as a team trading up to potentially go after him, which all led to this discussion and to this point by ESPN's Mina Kimes on NFL Live, talking about what this team and how they have approached this offseason.
Well, I would have liked them to see them do other things earlier. Let's start here. I don't really understand their decision-making process in all of this. They are backed into a corner with Aaron Rodgers. The only other option really who's out there, in my mind, would be trading for Kirk Cousins, but I would be uncomfortable doing that based on what we saw at the end of last season. Maybe you feel better about his ability to get under center, run play action, which would make sense with Arthur Smith as their offensive coordinator, but they're really not operating from any position of strength in terms of their options. And again, I ask, why were they not on the phone with the Seahawks about Geno Smith if all it took was a third rounder? Why were they not talking to Sam Darnold, who really signed quite an affordable contract in Seattle? It's odd to me that they're at this point having clearly either decided to move on from Wilson and Fields or misjudge the market for one of them or both of them.
Yeah, Dad, however you slice it, there really is. And again, maybe if we are going to afford the Steelers the most grace, maybe behind the scene they were involved with more of these things. And maybe behind the scenes they just ultimately ended up being not the best trade partner, not the best offer. Maybe Sam Darnold had agency in all this, but that feels like stuff we would have heard a little more, especially if you're the Steelers and you want credit for that with your fan base of actually going and having tried to attack this offseason. And so it creates an interesting pull at the bottom of the first round now where, Dad, I still have a feeling we may see actually the run on quarterbacks happen where people have talked about Jackson Dart. I don't think Tyler Shuck is actually going to be a first round quarterback because of age. But when we look at Jackson Dart and Shedeur Sanders, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then the Los Angeles Rams are the other interesting one, a team that's constantly looking for that next leg, that next bridge after Matthew Stafford whenever he decides to hang it up on what's been kind of a series of one-year deals ostensibly. I think that becomes the really interesting portion of the draft is, are both of those teams content to sit and let it come to them in a year where these quarterbacks don't feel as compelling? Or is that where we're going to see some of the action and some of the movement in the first round that we may not get now that it feels like the Giants have bought themselves a little bit of insurance with Russell Wilson?
Yeah, and as far as Pittsburgh, does Pittsburgh sit at 21 and wait to see if a quarterback drops to them? If they trade up, the only team they would have to trade in front of that would maybe think about a quarterback would be the Saints, right? With really 1 year of Derek Carr left. But I don't even know if Pittsburgh would need to trade up there. That would 21 to 9 to trade with the Saints or to trade with a team in front of them. I don't know if they would do. I don't know if they would reach that much. I agree. I don't believe Tyler Shuck's going to go in the first round either. I definitely think Jackson Dart will. I don't know if he'll. Some have him projected to the Rams at 26. I don't know if he waits, if he's there that long. But we always talk about who's that player that could go high or could slide, and it does seem that Shedeur could be that guy again. If the Browns or Giants don't take him, that's a fall to 9 at least. If the Saints don't take him, then that's a fall to at least 21, barring any trade. So he seems to be the wild card in all this.
He does. Although it is interesting as I'm just looking at the headlines now, we talk with such certainty, understandably, about Travis Hunter, who's going to be incredible for whoever picks him. And Abdul Carter's been the other one that's kind of a consensus number one pick type player. Even though, remember, when we went through the combine, that stress reaction popped up in his foot in addition to the shoulder injury sustained in the Boise State game that carried him through the end of the season, or the SMU game, one of the two, I forget which, but that took him through the end of the season. Dad, the whole caveat of the combine was people expected, it wouldn't affect him. He'd still participate at his pro day. Abdul Carter also not participating in on-field events at his pro day. Said he might work out for teams individually as they get into April while still recovering from that shoulder injury. Now, the stress reaction of the foot was deemed to be a non-issue. There was a chance they thought he might have to put hardware in there, but ultimately opted not to. And so for a guy with injury questions that they haven't seen on the field, it is a reminder the tape is the ultimate determinant for players that are that good, but it is a bit surprising that no other questions have popped up around that, considering this is a player that we have not seen move in any meaningful way since the season ended.
Yeah, he's just one of those outliers that he doesn't have to do a damn thing. He didn't have to do anything at the combine. Doesn't have to do anything at the pro day. He could go on a team visit and just say, I'm just going to talk to you. And he's still going to be at least the second pick of the draft, probably with the Browns. So he's one of the few who could do nothing and still go high. Obviously, he'll have to let doctors look at him. He can't eschew that. He has to have that given the injuries. But it seems like he's pretty much locked into that number 2 pick.
Yeah, I guess that is a good reminder. The combine, where the medicals really are the most important part of the experience, came and went, and this is still not a guy that we have heard any misgivings about taking very high in the first round, paying millions of dollars, and expecting him to come in and immediately impact your program in a positive way, potentially for the Cleveland Browns opposite Myles Garrett, if you believe Adam Schefter and the, I shouldn't say reporting because it wasn't reported, but the strong statement by Adam Schefter that he right now would handicap him as the number 2 overall pick that throws the rest of this quarterback conversation into disarray. Coming up next, we hear from Commissioner Adam Silver on the state of the NBA All-Star Mini Tournament here on Gojo and Golic.
I'm amazed how often professional athletes' children's openly shade their fathers or mothers in favor of better players on the court.
But I'll ask you this. Since you got into this business, who has been your favorite talk show host?
The way I've modeled my game, obviously, the name that I've carried with this, it all definitely leans to my favorite broadcaster, Stugotz. I mean, the guy's been like a father to me. I really consider myself the Stugotz Jr.
Our time seems to have ended now that you stuck the knife in and twisted it.
Wow, you just plummeted to the bottom of the child rankings.
Wow.
Just a reminder.
Hurtful.
Didn't realize that was the beginning of the end of the show.
Yeah.
Wow.
Should have realized.
I'm speechless. I don't even know if I can carry on through the rest of the show.
Should we just,
I mean, it can't be all that surprising considering. Yeah, we might as well wrap it up now. You know what, guys?
Yeah.
We tried real hard, but unfortunately, Dad is just too verklempt to move on, and so we're going to have to shut the lights down early. Sorry. Thank you. Download, subscribe, rate, and review. No, thank you again to Stugotz and our producer, Slates, who made the phenomenal piece of art in the last segment. If you missed it, at Gojo and Golic on Twitter. It just got tweeted out, an acrostic poem for the age. It's not really an acrostic poem, just a poem, a short story, a children's book.
Yeah.
That we will be benefiting from very soon. Dad, I want to talk, and Jesse, about what we heard from Adam Silver around one of his many precious tournaments that this man, Adam Silver, addicted to tournaments in the same way that Mike White, the creator of White Lotus, is addicted to stealing ideas from his vacations to put in shows later on HBO. So too, apparently, is this an addiction here. But I am overwhelmed on the timeline, Dad. I need to know if you're impressed by this or not. For anyone that's watched the Florida Gators for the last few years, we are in pro day season, as everyone well knows, everyone running fast, jumping high. This Desmond Watson, the defensive tackle from Florida, who's been a mountain for the Gators for the last few years, measured in at 6'6", 464 pounds. That's not the weight in the program. That's not some hearsay. That is the weight he measured in at his pro day at Florida. Ran a 5'8", 640, did 36 reps on the bench of 225, and jumped 25 inches. I need the folks over at Combine IQ at Next Gen Stats, powered by AWS, to tell me the athletic score that correlates, or find the relative athletic score guy on Twitter. Because for something that big, to move that fast, and to work that well, Dad, to me is amazing. That is one of the most amazing feats of athleticism I've heard throughout this entire lead up to the draft.
It'll be interesting what he does at the next level, because obviously you line him up in a zero technique right over the center. The center's going to go, my God, are you kidding me? You're going to talk about combo blocks with the guard in the center off to the linebacker. You're going to figure from tackle to tackle, he should be able to be a force, a definite two-down guy who should not be get moved off the ball. It's just a matter of what his endurance is. At that size, I'd imagine he's going to lose some weight. But that's kind of that's bigger than any player I've ever seen. So I don't think he could play at that size. But it'll be an interesting experiment, that's for sure.
I am just overwhelmed by you see it on tape. He is a mountain of a man. He's hard to move. Lateral quickness might be an issue. But again, those numbers, even at that size, like some people balk at a 40 time that's almost 6 seconds. But again, Dad, he's almost 130 pounds heavier than most of the incredible offensive linemen that we see run at the pro day or combine, where we're impressed when they go right around 5 seconds. A sub 540 for a 315 plus pound offensive tackle is usually considered elite territory. And this guy ran a 5.86 with another middle schooler attached to his back.
Yeah. Listen, I wish him well.
I guess high school.
Don't know if he'll get drafted, but he'll certainly, I would imagine, get a chance with a team. And then it's kind of you know what you do with him. You put him straight on the center and just have him be a meat shield from tackle to tackle, eat up blocks, and not like guys off to the linebacker and let linebackers make the play. But like I said, it'll be an interesting experiment.
No doubt. Speaking of experiments, Jesse, we saw them in the NBA All-Star game this year, and Adam Silver apparently calling an oopsie on this already.
Yeah, so we found out that they will not be bringing back the All-Star Game mini tournament next year. So Adam Silver said Thursday the format used last month, which, reminder, 4-team tournament made up of 24 All-Stars, another team of rookies and sophomores that played its way in by winning the Rising Stars event on that Friday. He called it a miss. So you know what? Respectfully, yes, we've said this man is obsessed with these little mini tournaments and everything, but we have to pay our dues and say respect to him that he said, you know what, it was a miss, we're not bringing it back.
I thought we made almost an immeasurable amount of progress. You know, I don't want to, I sitting there, I thought this is a little better, but it was a miss. We're not there. In terms of creating an all-star experience that we can be proud of.
Yeah, nobody wanted to see that again.
No, and again, I have no problem with them tinkering stuff with All-Star Weekend because in general, I think the whole notion of trying to save the All-Star Game is silly and nonsensical. No one cares that much. It's not that important in the popular landscape of the NBA. Right. It's great for the fans locally to have some sort of access and interaction. But, Dad, as far as TV numbers or anything else, like, it's a drop in the bucket compared to what's actually important for the league and the more existential questions they need to consider. So wasting too much bandwidth on this is just that, a waste of time.
I agree. And remember, they did this because the last All-Star game before this, the score was 211 to 186. It was just ridiculous. And one of the reasons they used why it was a miss was the stoppage between the games. Now, that could easily be fixed by not having as much stoppage. You can control that, but obviously they don't think the 4-team mini tournament was very good. But I'm with you. I mean, I don't know how much you tinker with it. And it's all about game day because you'll still have the skills challenge on the day before. The NFL just went basically, we're just going to make it all fun skill challenges, real skill challenges, and a flag football game, and we'll call it a day. And they get their ratings. Now, next year's All-Star Game will also be during the Winter Olympics. And remember, the All-Star Game will be on NBC because they switch broadcast partners, and NBC also carries the Olympics. So it'll be during the Winter Olympics as well. So there'll be a lot of eyes on the Winter Olympics. But I'm with you. I mean, don't rack your brain too much trying to figure out this one day of a game or a day and any kind of competition that doesn't count. I mean, just – figure something out, give it a shot, and just go with it. It's not that big a deal.
Well, no, especially compared to the other things that the NBA is apparently pondering, Dad, which Adam Silver talked about at length the other day, which include expansion. Now, they said they're going to kind of wait and digest the sale of the Boston Celtics that just went down, amongst other things with some of the regional sports networks that had gone awry, and try and figure out their financial situation. But, Dad, there is a widespread belief among the league that if it does expand, Las Vegas and Seattle could be strong favorites to land some of those expansion teams. Obviously, everyone's been trying to plant their flag in Las Vegas on the sports front as they now have women's basketball team, a hockey team, an NFL team, and are flirting with the eventual move of the Oakland A's to Las Vegas. And so adding a basketball team on the men's side on top of that seems to be an inevitability. But, Dad, Seattle getting a team back, and if it would be, the Supersonics again that became the Oklahoma City Thunder, I know would hit the nostalgia button for a lot of people. And Seattle is a sports town, a place that has always been an incredible safe harbor for teams, and would, I'm sure, I'd imagine, welcome that back with open arms, right? I know there's always a lot of hard feelings when teams up and move, but Seattle having a professional basketball team back seems like it would be a massive win and something well received there.
Yeah, you lose a team for a reason, whether it's you're held hostage by the owner or you don't want them there anymore. And there are a lot of people a lot of people from cities who haven't had an expansion team that would say, why go back to a place that had it? Why not give a new city a start? It obviously didn't work there for whatever reason, and they're out of Seattle. Let's give it to a new city. I agree. There's no doubt there will be a team in Vegas. All of a sudden, when owners started learning the money they can make off of legalized gambling, every sport is rushing there. Obviously you have hockey there, you have football there, you're going to have baseball there, and you're going to have basketball there. And listen, as a former player, I am all for expansion. That gives more players an opportunity, and you have obviously the world to pick from. Basketball is a number 2 sport in Europe. We know number 1 is soccer, but 5 of the last 6 MVPs have been European. So, I mean, there's plenty of talent out there people say, well, if you expand it, you water it down. There's plenty of talent out there, and they're going to expand. They're making a ton of money. See that by the contracts, the guys on the bench are making. I mean, it's crazy the amount of money that's going around in basketball. So they can certainly afford to expand and still make tons of money. So yeah, I do think it's an inevitability that they will expand.
Yep, I would say I agree and won't have any issue when that pops up. The NBA also talked about, Adam Silver, I should say, the tanking issue in the NBA. 7 teams, currently 20 games under 500. This is always going to be a topic of conversation. And it's another one, Dad, that kind of like we talked about with fixing the All-Star game. I question how much this actually matters in the modern sea of the game. We talked about all of the exciting plot lines down the stretch of the season, the good teams that you have to focus on. Yes, for those teams near the bottom, you might have apathetic fan bases, which might turn into lower ticket gate. But in general, most of those fans, I'm sure, understand and are usually smart enough to be the ones rooting for the team to bottom out. We always mention it, Dad. The players don't want to be losing that many games. It sucks for everyone there. It sucks for the coaches. But for fans who don't have to go into that miserable workplace, once you're bad, you might as well be really bad, because being mediocre and hugging that median is usually the worst fate for a fan base, where you're never in range to land a good player that we talked about the other day is the real only surefire ticket to getting close to a championship in this league in particular.
Yeah, listen, I agree. I don't know how much you tinker with it. And again, we keep saying it's not the players, as by the fact of what we said the other day, that the top players are playing in the games, so they can't get nailed by the league for not participating, but they're sitting in the fourth quarter, and you're getting two-way players and rookies playing in the fourth quarter. You know who it's only affecting, Mike? It's only affecting those fans that paid money to go see those games, right? Those games normally aren't on TV. So, and plus, if it's on TV, you can just turn it, and not watch it. But it only affects those. And listen, I feel for you. If you spent money on a ticket and you're going to see a direct game or a team that's basically trying to lose, that's not the greatest thing in the world. But you have to think of the masses instead of the few. And you're right. I mean, how quickly do resident Jet fans, like Stu Gotts, say, just lose the rest, 6 games into the season, lose the rest of the games, get the top pick in the draft. I mean, fans want to see their team. If we're not going to be good, there's no sense in being average. Let's be god-awful and get a top pick.
Yeah, again, this is one of those, the NBA, we talked about it all the time when the rating stuff would come up. They've already signed the TV deal. They're good. The rating situation leveled out.
Exactly.
So do you really need to worry about the bottom feeders in a league where, again, the incentive is be bad so you can get good quickly? Be bad and we'll reward you with one of those fun ping pong balls that could potentially get you a Cooper Flagg or a Victor Wembanyama or one of these great players at the top of the draft. That's the way that the NBA have decided to incentivize that, because you like the idea of parity like everyone else, and you want to continue to spread the talent around, not to the teams that function the best, but to the teams that are the worst, to try and bail bad ownership or bail bad management out with good players that can overcome that. And so unless you want to change that, the rest of this is just lipstick on a pig that ultimately doesn't matter, Dad, because like every other sport, like we see in college football, like we see in the NFL, it's always going to be, what do your best teams do? That's why the focus needs to continue to be on not tanking or anything like that, but how do we get the best players on the court more often in the big games that are going to be the bellwether for our television franchise? That's really what the NBA needs to focus on, is how can we get and keep more of those guys on the court in bigger regular season games as we try and bolster that version of the product.
So out of all the major sports, it seems football tinkers with the rules the most. We have a few more rule changes going into place. But I think, tell me if you agree, I think the best rule change in all of sports, in the 4 majors in the last couple of years, has been the pitch clock. I think the pitch clock has worked in baseball in making the games move at a better pace in a game that's normally slow anyway. I think the pitch clock has been really positive.
It's been one of the few things adopted where everyone said, hey, this seems to make logical sense. And then when it was put in play, spoiler alert, it made logical sense, and everyone was able to adjust, and we got a better version of the game because of that. Speaking of getting better, we're going to get better when Brandon Newman joins us next here on Gojo and Golic.
Dan Le Batard has been dragged out to Radio Row. Did you ever think you'd be back?
The only thing that brought me out to do this is the love that you two share. What a moving joy it is to walk into our offices, see you guys on the televisions talking, and know the history of how he passed this down to you and would take no shame but honor in saying you now do it better than him because you learned so many things from him. It is such a tribute to fatherhood. And such a tribute. There's no relationship like it that I have seen in public grow this way, and I'm just thrilled to be here with you guys because it's moving to me, genuinely moving.
Dan Le Batard, so consistent in that message to us, by the way, sent us basically that exact soliloquy in text form the other day with a picture from their studios in South Beach. So always appreciate that from Dan. We obviously understand and appreciate how cool this opportunity is. A little bit less weepy than the last time we said goodbye in a show, considering we know we'll probably be doing this again pretty soon. So anyone that's come here for more of those tears, you're probably going to have to wait for another day on that. But either way, we appreciate Dan on that front. And, I've appreciated the opportunity to get to do this again here. And it's not lost on us. We didn't know if we'd get to do a show like this again together post ESPN when we finished up with Golic and Wingo. And so, at the end of DraftKings here, Dad, there's certainly a thank you for giving us the chance to do this together again, which, again, was not a certainty anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt, giving us a chance to do it. And like you said, we'll have a chance to do it again. I keep saying, you keep, whenever I got to get a younger partner. I can't keep carrying this old man around, to kind of shoo me away and get someone your own age, to
See,
do a show
I think
with.
you're doing the thing where you want to be asked to leave when really you're just talking about being tired, and you want to go and sit and putter and watch your Netflix shows in your bathtub, and then go and work. By the way, work out your shoulder that you're not supposed to have out of the sling right now, and do all of those things you want to do, and then mom bullies you back into the chair. I know the way that this all works now.
I can't leave. Your mother won't let me leave. I'm sure your mother is talking to you saying, don't push your dad away just yet. I know you need you need a younger host and stuff, but don't push him away yet because I can't have him around the house 24/7. She keeps saying, you're too young to retire. But deep down, she's like, I don't want you around the house, even though I'm only walking 30 feet and it's only 2 hours out of the day. It's not like I'm home 22 out of 24 hours a day.
She might just make you go into your little casita for a few hours a day. Just to keep
true.
Up the...
Just continue to go in there until we're on another entity.
Yes.
Yeah, her Ken's job is casita. And speaking of getting younger around here and handsomer, Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Jesse Cofield, the return of the king. The prince that was promised. The prodigal son has come home here. For those of you that came on board during the original Gojo days, super producer Brandon Newman back from paternity leave here for this final show here. How you doing, buddy? You look great.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike Golic. Thank you, Mike Golic Jr. Thank you, Mike Golic Sr. Such a pleasure to be here on the last day of this historic program here at DraftKings.
So, I mean, how for everybody, explain you're on paternity leave. You have 3 kids. What are the ages?
Oh, Lord Jesus. 5, 3, and 7 weeks old.
So I would say, why would you want to go on paternity leave? You would think you'd want to get out of that.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for saying it. Just the other day, I was telling my wife, Michelle, that this is the hardest paternity leave that I've ever had, but it's also the longest. And she said, oh, that's funny because it's the easiest for me. And I was like, yeah, I think it's working that way, like some way the math is mathing.
Yeah, no, the inverse correlation there between her happiness and yours during this time period definitely feels like it's correlating. Although, shout out to moms. They probably deserve the relief on that front more than anybody. So it's good that you're providing that valve. But Brandon, we were talking last night. Did you say you have been solo parenting the 3 kids for how many days now?
2 full 48-hour days, 3 days, 2 nights. I don't know how to break down the math, but my wife was in Notre Dame. By the way, you said I lost some weight. Shout out to this. My wife brought me back this little penny from Notre Dame bookstore. Apparently, I've lost enough weight to fit into a 2X women's, 3X men's to 2X women's.
Okay,
but anyways, yes, no, it's been hell on earth. It's been kind of crazy. I've been fueled from. I don't want to mention vices here, but it's been crazy. It's been pretty nuts, but it's a blessing. It's a blessing. And I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe you're all in and all out. And I think I'm all out. I don't think I ever want another job again.
So I was going to say, you were alone for 2 nights and 3 days. Was your wife supposed to only be gone for a day and she just decided to stay away a little longer? Said, I kind of like this freedom.
She did enjoy. She hadn't been away from the boys in 3 years since our middle child was born. So she was enjoying sleeping in a hotel room by herself. She stayed actually in the Morris Inn. We all know how nice and beautiful the Morris Inn.
Oh,
if you've ever been to the Subcar Classic, the host hotel for the Subcar Classic. But no, it was pretty crazy. But it's nice to know that I can do it. It's like a little bit of an insult though. Like when I'm in like a basketball league for men in my neighborhood, washed. And when I make a free throw, everyone cheers. And I hate it because it just tells everyone in the audience that I don't make free throws. And it's the same type of thing with this. When I took the kids to the beach and my wife was like, you took all 3 of our children to the beach? Like, you can't do that. I was like, guys, you make it so I don't have to do anything, but that doesn't mean I can't do anything.
Well, see, this seems to be a common thread, and Jesse, you can speak to this too, because I feel like I see and hear this all the time from our friends that are parents, especially the dads, where moms are showing off Herculean feats of strength all the time, but the minute a dad does anything with the kids in public, he is immediately praised, almost universally, especially oftentimes from other moms, for being such a great dad just because you show up and do the bare minimum. Does that sound about right, Brandon, Jesse?
Yeah, the bar's on the floor for men. They're like, you're physically present. You're out of the home with a child. My God. Let me just call and just make sure you get an award for that. The other thing I want to check on, Brandon, is you did it. You brought all your kids to the beach. That's amazing. Did we stay on schedule? Do we make our naps? Do we get our lunch? Because I've had that happen with my husband where he's like, oh, I've done this with the kid. And I'm like, yeah, and you've effed our whole day. We missed nap.
Yeah.
Lunch is late. And it's like, you want to have it's like, well, you just screwed me. So thanks for nothing.
That's the thing, though, Jesse. You guys were co-parenting in that moment. If it's just dad, then the schedule is just dad's schedule. And
which is no
everything
schedule.
on dad's schedule is perfect. Yeah, well, we tried. No, everything we actually did on schedule, and you're completely right. When I'm walking around Sarasota, Florida with these kids, everyone is in awe. Obviously, I think little babies are cracked for women. I didn't really understand how much people they can smell how fresh it is.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, give me, let me, baby.
Yep.
Shout out girl dad, by the way. Got a girl, so thankful for that. But no, everyone is floored at the fact that I have a baby. Honestly, we were at the beach and some lady sent me pictures because she just took candids of me with the kids at the beach. She's like, can I send you these? Like, I was like, yes, I need the evidence to show my wife. Thank you so much. And then meanwhile, I sent it to my wife. And she said, what girlfriend did you invite to the beach to take pictures of y'all? Like, who's y'all at the beach? I'm like, I can't win. I can't win in this.
No, you can't win.
At Gojo and Golic, is it okay to take cute candids of a stranger to then send to them? Because that is a somewhat unprecedented. I don't feel like that happens very often, especially in this day and age.
I don't know. And guys, I hate to get racial, but it's something about those beige babies and they just see one side of it. They're like, oh, where's that cream colored mother? And they couldn't find it. And they're like, oh, well, this guy's clearly knows what he's doing. Somebody came over and was like, you look like a pro. Somebody else said, your wife should sell you. People would buy you. I was like, I wouldn't use those terms, especially with me and the dynamic, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, maybe back away from that terminology pretty slowly here. I know we're trying to erase it every day, but our country still has a tough history on that front that we might not want to bring up in public. Speaking of history, though, coming up next, the history of this show began with an idea from Brandon Newman. It is this, that, and the third. It is 3 quick stories to send you off, and Brandon will be here to start that segment off the only way he knows how, next on Gojo and Golic. All right, time to finish off the show forever the way we always do. It's this, that, and the third. It's 3 quick stories to send you off into the rest of the day. As we said, don't download, subscribe, rate, and review anymore. We ain't going to be on that feed anymore. You can check out the Gojo and Golic YouTube channel. There's probably still some stuff that's going to pop up over there at some point here. Thank you, as always, to our guests. No one today, although shout out to our producer, Slates, for the incredible Nepo Baby children's book that will be coming to a bookstore near you at some point. Thank you to everyone here on our staff that's made this show go for a long time. There are so many people here at DraftKings that have worked in and around this show to make it go. Our various producers, Slates, Drew, Alan Yates, Tom Glennon, Billy, Tom Pike, Buckley, Samir, Billy Delaney, Jay Brennan, Passetti, Cody, Jack Connell, Passetti, Regia, Howard, Isaiah Wrinkle from back in the day with our VSiN combo there, Hoffman, Bailey, Ethan, Hank, everyone that's gone in, Jesse and Emerson sitting in the chair there in studio, and of course, super producer Brandon Newman back here to finish us all off. It took a village to make this whole thing go. Thank you to everybody for all the help there. We're indebted to you forever. As we've told you on and off there, if there's ever anything we can do for you guys, please let us know. We're always here. The number doesn't change. And we're in this together from here on out the way that we were in this together for the last few years. And that will not change just because the name on the show will change around here. With all of that in mind and all of the love and gratitude in the world for our time here at the DraftKings Network, This, That, and the Third was a foundational element of the original Gojo podcast that beget this show, when me and Brandon Newman were just sitting in tank tops trying to figure out how to make it work while Brandon did 8 million jobs on the back end of this podcast, in front of the microphone on this podcast, and still had time to spit out the idea that would become the only consistent through line through this show. And for OG listeners, you remember Brandon used to intro This, That, and the Third with a song. And so, Brandon, I give way to you for what will be the final This, That, and the Third song in the show's history. Are you ready, sir?
And all you'd ever hear me say is how I picture me with you. That's all you'd ever hear me say. This, that, and the third. I can't breathe for the first time. I'm somewhere and yeah. Next to you. Now I this, that, and the third. Since you've been gone.
Wow. Iconic.
Breathtaking as ever. You still got it.
He is the
You
moment.
still got it.
The effort
Truly
is
amazing.
A+.
Yeah.
A+.
It's
A+ effort.
Don't give me that. Don't give me that. Every time.
Don't do it.
We had your dad. We only had the budget to have your dad once a week back in the day, right? And when I come on and do This, That, and the Third with him, he'd every time, he'd, great effort, Brandon. Can't say you're a good singer. Great effort. Listen, zip it. I'm talented. I'm a shining star. This is my platform. This is my time. You're welcome.
Let's go.
Brandon, you can't sing.
Let him know, Brandon.
You can't sing.
Put him in his place, Brandon.
You can't sing. I mean, what do you want me to tell you? It's
a
great
I will
effort.
say,
He has presence.
I will say, back when I thought I could sing when I was a child, I was presented. So, you know, like parents make you do things in front of other people.
Yeah.
Like, oh, like do this,
Yeah.
show, do the thing, do the leg trick, do the leg trick. Somebody, my aunt showed me, like, to her pastor, she's like, sing for him. I sang something that was so beautiful, and at the end, he was like, oh yeah, that might be fun to hear on a cruise. I was 8 years old and knew it was a diss. I was like, hold up. I'm looking for, like, now that's what I call music. You know, the Tonight Show. Speaking of, by the way,
That was
the senior, as you get older, I really do think you can be the Ed McMahon to Gojo's Johnny Carson eventually. So good luck with that.
That seems to be my lot in life. I can't retire. My wife won't let me, so I have to keep finding jobs.
Speaking of retiring, let's retire this show by buzzing through 3 quick headlines to give people something to latch onto in the promise of this segment. Starting off with This, That, and the Third. Derrick Rose, can we get the footage of this incredible pitch throughout the first pitch at the White Sox game on opening day and laced this thing? Maybe the best first pitch I've ever seen from a professional athlete that wasn't a baseball player. Where are we at on people actually being good at first pitches? Is that cool, or should you be bad like everybody else for the bit?
Oh, that just shows you your athletic ability. And he was on the mound, too. Like, sometimes you're in front of the mound on the grass. As I said, Greeny and I threw out 4 first pitches, and I bounced 2 of them. And I got booed, and I should have gotten booed, because that's all they say. They said you can airmail it, just don't bounce it. And I bounced 2. That was an excellent throw from the regulation pitching distance. It was really good.
Yeah, all athletes come in and they say, like, oh, I could have been this star. I could have did this. I could have did that. Until you see them do something. And it's just, all we need is a little taste to believe all of the folklore that they grew up with. And that was a little taste we needed. Like, Derrick Rose is truly the LeBron James of the people from Chicago. And we should give him his respect for that.
Absolutely. Give our flowers to the Rose. Jesse, what do we got for that?
Okay, so an Everton soccer fan bought season tickets. They've got a new stadium. It's a whole thing. It's really cool. And he goes to his seat for the first game to find out his seat doesn't exist. So he has 397, and he goes up, and there's 396, and there's 398. No 397. So, I don't know, season tickets down the drain? What's best case scenario here? They give him a refund and he doesn't have season tickets? That stinks.
First off, how do you not have a 390? How do you go? I can understand, like, on elevators, there's no 13th floor, unlucky 13. Is there an unlucky 397? I mean, it goes from 396 to 398. How do you miss a 397? That's the part that befuddles me.
An F up. It was obviously an F up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah, clearly an F up.
It's one of those things.
No, I was like, clearly an F up that somebody was like, nobody will notice this. And then they gave away that season ticket and like, okay, somebody noticed.
Shoot.
I see. Whenever I'm playing blackjack and you get to the end of the deck and the card that you cut with comes out, I always joke and say that's the wild card. This should be the wild card where this person should get to go sit in the owner's box now. I bought a season ticket.
Yeah.
You did not provide me a seat. I now get to come sit next to you because you made this egregious mistake. So congratulations. It wasn't like a seat was ripped out. If you're listening to this on audio, it was just one chair next to the other, went from 396 to 398, and the rest is history. Real platform 9 3/4 action from the folks there. Jesse, let's finish up with the third. What's the last story?
I don't really understand this. So the CIA is claiming that they've confirmed the existence of the Ark of the Covenant by way of remote viewing, aka extrasensory perception, or ESP. They're alleging that the mysterious sacred object is guarded by entities with an unknown power. Isn't that like projecting your consciousness? Is the CIA saying that they can project their consciousness in order to view things?
So it's listed here in a document in a remote viewing session from December of 1988. Remote viewer 32 was tasked with identifying a target that, unbeknownst to them, ended up being the Ark of the Covenant, according to a document which was declassified back in 2000 and has been making the rounds on social media. Dad, are you buying any of this?
No, I'm not. Again, for those that don't know, the Ark of the Covenant is known to have, or is supposed to have, housed the 10 Commandments and other sacred items representing God's presence and serving as a central symbol of the covenant between God and the Israelites. I don't know how much I buy into this. Sorry.
Yeah. And you're a big, Moses guy, so.
But faith is seeing without believing.
Moses guy.
Yeah. Believing without seeing is faith. So you got to, the CIA, big guy maybe.
Yeah, big God guy. He did his own ESP. Yeah.
Until I see Harrison Ford anywhere around this, I will not believe anything Ark of the Covenant related without his presence. That just feels like good policy at this point, even though I have seen a whopping 0 Indiana Jones movies here. Thank you to everyone who made this happen. I know I read off a bunch of names before. God, if I forgot any, I so apologize. Everyone here has been so wonderful. All of you who have listened, who have downloaded, subscribed, rated, and reviewed, left us 5-star ratings, and watched us anywhere on the DraftKings family of networks. Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll talk to you again soon. Enjoy the weekend.